Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be back. Baruch Hashem, today, Thursday, the 25th day of Iyar, corresponding to the 26th day of May, the 40th day of the Omer. Today's breakfast and class graciously sponsored by the Cabasso family, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved father, Abraham Cabasso, Ben Rachel Alav Shalom. Additionally, today's class dedicated Le'ilui Nishmat Ishaq Ben Sara and Le'ilui Nishmat Mr. Charlie Saka Yeshaya Ben Lora Iratzon. The Neshama have an aliyah in Gan Eden. The Neshamot rather have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. We continue with the daily learning of the Sefirah HaOmer. Today, Sefirah number 40. This corresponds to the relationship between Aharon Kohen being the guest and Yosef Aharon being the host of this particular week, the way we have been discussing throughout the week remotely. So the idea is as follows. Hod in English literally means beauty. Amen. But additionally, Hod represents Hoda'ah, expressing gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So there are three short exercises for the day. There is a beautiful concept in our Torah, in our Mitzvot and Avodat Hashem. It's called a pasuk in Perashat Beshalach that says, Ze Eli ve'anvehu Elohe avi baromemenhu. Ze Eli, this is my God, ve'anvehu, and I will adorn him. What it means, it says here in the Sefirah of the Omer, that when it comes to matters of spirituality, something related to the physical but the spiritual. One basic example, a synagogue, correct? A synagogue. Baruch Hashem, synagogues, and Baruch Hashem, you go around and you see that synagogues look clean, presentable, and very elegant. And each one on their style, each one on their fashion, each one on the taste of the designers, etc. But why do we go the extra mile when it comes to adorning a synagogue? Short answer is based on the Sefirah of today. The Sefirah, it's called Hod. Hod means beauty. When I do something for Hashem, let's say I beautify a synagogue, that's one example. But let's bring the example more in our personal lives. I buy for myself a beautiful pair of tefillin. I buy for myself a nice talit for Shabbat. And I go the extra mile. The synagogue has maybe 200 talitot, or 300, or 400. I don't even know how many we have. Okay? And yet you see that many have their own talit. And maybe because of COVID going back retroactively, many people change their mind. But I believe since I'm married, I have a separate talit for Shabbat. Obviously, I've changed it a few times in a couple of dozen years of being married, Baruch Hashem. But why do we go the extra mile? It actually comes from the Sefirah of today. Borei Olam is kind to us. Hashem is kind, benevolent, patient, tolerant, generous. So the least that we can do to reciprocate to Him is obviously enhancing the way we observe the mitzvot. Remember 40, 50 years ago, or I will say that, lulavim and etrogim, lulav and etrog, it wasn't common that every person has their own set. Today, and for the past 10 years or more, Baruch Hashem, people have them. But I remember as a child that we used to have at the synagogue 2 or 3 sets for the entire kahal. Correct? Remember those days? Probably in America, you gotta go back 60, 70 years. Correct? But as the years went by, and people become more aware of the mitzvah, which actually things with time change. You know, like kashrut, like availability of matzah shemura for Pesach. I told you this in the past, that as a child I remember that if we wanted to have matzah shemura for Pesach, we needed to order the matzah by Hanukkah, because the matzah will come by boat from Israel. We're going back in the 70s in Argentina. Even more. From Sukkot, you got to order for Pesach. And Pesach, you got to order the Lulavim. So it says here that when a person goes the extra mile in order to strengthen the kavod of the mitzvah, we are activating today's the Sefirah of Aharon, Ben Adam Lahavero. Now we move on to the next level. How can I beautify a relationship? Now we're not talking about gifts. We're not talking about a physical item. How can I beautify a relationship? And you know what it says here? Give a compliment. Give a compliment. Not a complaint, but a compliment. To some of us, to give a compliment is natural, is automatic. To some people, they are more inclined to complain than to compliment. And it's not funny what I just said, in the sense of I'm thinking now, I'm looking at you, and I said compliment, complaint.
Or put it down.
It's the same thing, right? Compliment or complain is a good example as well, putting down. Complain and compliment, they are more or less the same letters, correct? There is a tiny difference. Or like you said, you put someone down. What did you do? You put someone down. You kill the person emotionally, as was mentioned in last week's Torah portion. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nihiyah bidbaro. I need to wake up. I'm exhausted. I had a 4-hour flight delayed last night, yesterday. Yeah. Kaparat awonot. Kaparat awonot. I got there on time, everything good. 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. But Baruch Hashem, we made it. Thank God. Anyways. Yes, it's a whole Megillah to travel. You have to pray. And it was good that I left Brooklyn early enough, because it took me an hour and 20 minutes from Brooklyn, Ocean Parkway, to JFK Airport. No, it was accidents and repair of the road. Baruch Hashem. For example, so we mentioned about giving a compliment to someone. What about when someone asks you for tzedakah? Okay, many times people ask for tzedakah. We give the tzedakah to get rid of the person. Don't bother me. Let's be honest here, okay? Haz v'shalom, I hope it never happens. But it says that the Sefirah of today teaches us that when you give tzedakah, don't give just money. Give a kind word. For example, have great beracha naslaha. Shaliach mitzvah. Have a safe trip. Something. Shouldn't be just a robotic. I'm giving money and that's the end of it. Third message. Ben Adam le'atzmo. It says, look back at your life. Go back 10 years. Let's go back 10 years ago. Look how your life was then and how your life is today. Hopefully, Be'ezat Hashem, life gets only better. And there are many parameters to determine an enhancement of life. But the message of today is about the challenges that a person may have experienced back then and how stronger the person is. And when I mean stronger, I'm not referring to the physical aspect, I'm referring to the emotional aspect and the spiritual aspect of life. In other words, am I the same as 10 years ago, or am I an upgraded version of 10 years ago? I hope I'm an upgraded version, and I hope that I'm not a downgraded version of 10 years ago, which is a possibility. Sometimes the person upgrades, sometimes the person downgrades. Obviously, our goal and mission is always to move up. Additionally, it says a very interesting idea, Ben Adam LaHavero. Says many times a person wants to grow spiritually, but they are afraid, or they are hesitant, or they are not so sure of themselves if they are ready to move on to the next spiritual level. And this is not a new topic, because the same way that we want in our physical, family, and financial life to see improvements, correct? A couple, for example, a man goal and a lady's goal is to get married. Baruch Hashem. After they get married, build their family. Baruch Hashem. Then educate the child. Okay, that's in a physical way. In a business like, you have a business, hopefully you want to be debt-free, Be'ezat Hashem. You want to be successful in your business and being able to provide for your family with a certain piece of financial peace of mind. It's normal and it's fine to have this kind of thinking. There's nothing wrong with it for a moment. Nothing wrong with it in the physical way, nothing wrong with it in the financial way, obviously between the parameters of halakha and normalcy. But today, he will discuss the Sefirah of today about the spiritual growth of the person. Getting stuck in spirituality is not our goal as Yehudi. Obviously, every person's growth and development from a spiritual perspective, it needs to be according to the person, correct? King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech, when it comes to the concept of education, Shlomo HaMelech says the following: Hanoch lana'ar al pi darko. Literally means educate your child, the youth, according to his way. Whose way is Shlomo HaMelech talking about? I'll tell you, not your way, but the way of a child. In other words, if a person wants to educate the children exactly in the same way, not all the time seems to be the ideal formula. Each child is a different world, correct? Each child has a different learning method. Each child has different levels of sensitivity, of understanding. To one child, you say it once, they do it. To the same, to another child of the same family by the same parents, you got to speak to them 3 times until they, or 3 times is good. Sometimes it's 10 times until they listen to you. So that's what Shlomo HaMelech says. He says, obviously, there is a basic fundamental aspect which is obvious, non-negotiable. But then when it comes to the development of the child, each one has its own way of developing. And that's why it says as follows, Ishtadel me'od. The person should make a great effort to educate their children, belelamed, and to teach them. All your children, all your descendants, in which area? So there are three ways of explaining this. One of them, it says, teach them to count their blessings and to be grateful. That is part of the Sefirah of today. Today is Hoda'ah. What's the meaning of Hoda'ah? Gratitude. Thanking Hashem. So the more thankful the person is to Kadosh Baruch Hu, guess what? The more blessings you'll get in your life. It's guaranteed return. God says, you're thanking me. I'm giving you more reasons to thank. That's beautiful. And guess what? Today, we live in a generation of entitlement. Correct? Everybody's nodding their head. I'm happy that we all agree. In Hebrew, they say, Magi'ali. Magi'ali. Magi'ali means, I'm entitled. Why are you entitled? No, because 21st century. And we have not much patience. With the opposite, we become more dependent on speed. Remember, used to be a time that people used to send letters, then fax, right? Then emails. And now, drone delivery. Telex. I forgot one. Telex. Remember, Tata, you used to count the letters so you don't pay more, right? You used to measure the code, right? Telegrams, correct. I remember, I never saw it.
22 words.
Okay, beautiful, thank you. Okay, but imagine yourself how much humanity evolved to a certain extent that we are spoiled. You know, you apply for a credit card, instant approval. You apply for a insurance, same day. Anything you apply for, even Amazon, same day delivery within 2 hours, Instacart, all these matters that in a way make our life to a certain extent easier, practical, but we forgot the human aspect of life, which is go to the market, interact with people, talk to people. What happened to that? Number one. Number two, so we mentioned about gratitude. It says that you should not wait till the child becomes older to start teaching them about this aspect. I was in a bookstore a while back, trying to remember which one.
There are no bookstores anymore.
That's true. That's true. But I was very happy to see the proliferation of books on the topic of gratitude and the topic of emunah in Hashem, in the topic of developing good midot in the life of children. In the olden days, books of midot were only available for the adults, not for children. It says, teach them the gratitude, teach them the proper behavior as a ben adam, as a person. Interesting that he did not say teach them immediately Torah lessons. Obviously, Torah is the source of good midot. Torah is the source of gratitude. Torah is the source of anything and everything that we have. But it's interesting that here the concentration it's more on training the brain of the person in these positive aspects of life. And it says that also teach them, it says, interesting, he says, songs. Songs. Songs to praise Hashem. And it says songs whenever it comes to a Shabbat, to a holiday, or you have a mashal, you have a berit milah, we have songs, correct? For most occasions, we have a variety of songs. So your question may be, why do I need to teach the young children songs? So he explains the reason why. Because the majority of the songs contain a godly spirit of gratitude and connection to Hashem. Let's take one song. Easy song that everybody knows. Let's say, Ki Eshmera Shabbat. Ki Eshmera Shabbat, Kel Ishmereni, Oti Le'ol Me'ad Beno Ubeni. Ki Eshmera Shabbat. When I'm going to observe the Shabbat, Kel Ishmereni. The Almighty reciprocates to me protection. I'm protecting the Shabbat, I'm honoring the Shabbat, I'm celebrating the Shabbat, automatically I get dividends. Ot hi le'ol me'ad. It's an eternal covenant. Beno ubeni. Between him and me. Another paragraph, another song. Nagila, hallelujah, Nagila. Let us rejoice. The time of the redemption has arrived. For example, Lichvotchem dat levavi, Eliyahu Navi. If you invest in understanding some of the beautiful songs of Shabbat and Milah, for example, you'll be surprised at the content of holiness that they contain. If you want to read some of these translations, there is a new Siddur by Art Scroll, the Sephardic Hebrew English Art Scroll Siddur. I believe that that one has a lot of songs with English translation. Maybe the Orot Siddur may have it, I'm not sure, but I do know that the Art Scroll does have it. And I'm not telling you to go ahead and buy a Siddur. You can check it out now at the synagogue. But it seems here that when a person sings to Hashem, which is something that we do in our prayers, especially in the Sephardic heritage, the prayers are not quiet. Correct? In the Ashkenazic tradition, the prayers are a bit quieter than the Sephardic tradition. Depends in the synagogue that you go, correct? Some synagogues, the choirs are, the tefillot are very quiet. If you go to a Hasidic synagogue, everybody, okay? But in the Sephardic, we have the melodic tunes of the prayers. If it's a weekday prayer, if it's a holiday prayer, if it's a Shabbat prayer, and in the Syrian world, we have the makamat, right? In the Sephardic world, we have the tunes of each particular Shabbat. And why so much emphasis is being done in music? I'll give you the short answer, and we'll finish with this today. Because music is the sound of the neshama. Music is the sound that the neshama understands. Even though it may be difficult for us to grasp, but how many times we hear a wonderful Hazan singing, praising Hashem, and suddenly we feel that we are climbing the ladder of spirituality. Why that happens? Short answer, because of the power of music. And that's the reason why so much emphasis is being made on the concept of listening to proper music, to kosher music, because not only gives enjoyment to the body, but also brings enjoyment to the soul. I'll finish with a short story, and then we are able to say Kaddish. Yes. There were two families in Israel. Two families in Israel. The family of a big Hacham and a family of a regular businessman. Many years later, sure, true story, the family of the Talmid Hacham, the sons were good people, but no one continued in the footsteps of the father. Good people, respectful, all into the world of business, which is nothing wrong with that. But allow me to finish the story. The other man was not a Talmid Hacham, was a businessman, but many of his children became Talmidei Hachamim. And they went to ask a great rabbi in Israel, how could it be that it was expected that from this Talmid Hacham, at least one will become a Talmid Hacham, and none of them become, and in the businessmen, 2 out of 4 became big Talmidei Hachamim. You know what was the answer given? The businessmen sang songs of Shabbat on the Shabbat table. The Talmid Hacham did not sing words, did not sing. What was their Shabbat menu? Devar Torah. Devar Torah is nothing wrong with Devar Torah. But the great Hacham explains, in the house of the simpler businessman individual, every Shabbat meal and holidays, they sang songs. And one child will say the Devar Torah. One child for lunch, one child for dinner, one child for Saudah Shelishit, whatever may have been. In the house of the Talmid Hacham, no singing. They consider singing wasting their time. And then one son said a Devar Torah. The other one said, wait till you hear my Devar Torah. And then it came the third one. Wait till you hear my Devar Torah. So what happens? Instead of the Devar Torah being said to enhance the beauty of the Shabbat table, it was utilized as a competition tool. In the house of the simpler men, the harmony in the singing and the kavod given whenever one of the children would say the Devar Torah, it brought them the sweetness of the Torah and the happiness of music. And even if you don't know how to sing, today there are CDs, or there are apps, or there are websites, MP3s. I'm not sure if people still buy CDs. Remember the 8-track, the round record, 33 RPM, right? 33 and a half, right? Anyways.
78.
Okay.
78, you're going too far.
Yeah, I wasn't born with that. I remember 33 and a half. Cassette players. Right. Anyways, so imagine yourself, and this is supported by the Safra of today. Says sing. It brings happiness to you and happiness for those that are around you. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen. Amen.